Hey guys, this is a video where I review the 2023 movies I saw. This is part two, so yeah. Also, after I made this video, I saw a movie called Candy Cane Lane, which wasn't good enough to be in this video, so sorry to all you Candy Cane Lane fans out there, but it was alright. Alright, let's start the video now. Saw X. Yeah, I liked it. I don't have much to say about it, but I liked it a lot. So I saw Migration after I made the outline for this video. So this segment might feel a little unprofessional compared to the others. But yeah, I saw Migration. It was pretty good. I think Illumination gets a bad rep. It was good, but nothing that special. Standard fare for the studio. Uh, if you have kids, I think you should see it. I think the whole family can enjoy it, but if you don't have kids, you would probably skip out on this. Standard, typical kid stuff, pretty charming, but not that special. Probably the most obscure film I watched this year was Tetris. I bet you didn't even know there was a Tetris movie. Now, it's not like a movie based on the lore of Tetris. How would that even work? Although there was a planned movie about Tetris where people had to avoid falling blocks or something. I think that was canceled. Hopefully it was. That sounds awful. But this is the true story about how Nintendo got the rights to have Tetris from Russia. Tetris was made in the Soviet Union. I like this movie a lot. I thought it was really good. As a certified gamer, I can confirm that Tetris is like the best game. Like that's it. That's where video games peaked is Tetris. I believe it's the most sold game, and I thought this was really interesting. Again, based on a true story, but unlike Oppenheimer, it's told its narrative a lot clearly, but it was still pretty confusing. Like at least it didn't jump back and forth through time. But I was just like there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of people trying to get these rights. There's like a bunch of different governments involved and everyone's going everywhere and it can get a little confusing, but you get the gist of it. The main character is the good guy. Everyone else that wants the rights is the bad guy, essentially. If you can see it, I would suggest you do because it's really good. But unfortunately, you probably can't because it's an Apple TV exclusive. And let's be real, who has Apple TV? They have like 5 notable things on their streaming service. But yeah, if you have Apple TV, definitely give it a watch. Oh man, maybe I didn't have to split these videos in two after all because I've been going remarkably quick. Okay, so this is one of the movies I've already reviewed. So I'm gonna try and keep this concise. I like this movie a lot. It has a very unique animation style, although it's kind of ugly sometimes, especially when there's humans. They probably did this on purpose, but every human character looks absolutely repulsive, except for April. But like the turtles are really the only normal looking characters in this entire movie. It has a nice plot about belonging and acceptance and whatever. And it was very cute and very heartwarming. And I liked the stuff of Splinter and like the emotional connection between father and the son and stuff like that. Also, I'm hyped for Shredder in the sequel. Shredder is pretty cool. Evil Dead Rise is so fun. Now, this is the only Evil Dead film I've ever seen, but if the other movies are as entertaining and imaginative as this, then I might have to check them out. I'm a sucker for dumb fun movies. Space Jam is one of my favorite films of all time. This is definitely a new dumb fun classic. And it's pretty creative with its scares too. There's not a lot of jump scares, which is something I know a lot of horror fans are tired of. I think jump scares aren't that bad as long as there's a good amount of suspense to them. Again, it's not about the loud noise blasting in your face, it's about that build up to said noise. But I don't think this movie has any jump scares from what I recall. When the monsters come, you can see them coming from a mile away. I mean, look right there. Really, where this movie gets most of its scares is from the body horror. The actress who plays the mom does an amazing job at just twisting her body into these really unsettling and uncomfortable positions. I mean, the moment she just walks in the room and you can tell something's off by the unnatural way she's standing. It's great. I'm kind of new to horror movies because I used to get really scared as a kid, and because when I was younger, I couldn't really discern fiction from reality. But now that I'm older and I've been seeing more of these, I'm actually having a really fun time. If any of you guys are horror fans, then please put some suggestions in the comments below because I really want to see more of this stuff. I had little to no expectations for Blue Beetle. If you've seen my community post, then you know that I have negative feelings on the DCEU. So I wasn't that stoked to see DC's throwaway movie, which is sort of a Schrodinger's cat of continuity because it's supposedly supposed to be in the DCEU and the new DC universe that comes out next year and maybe its own thing too. I don't know, man. The point is, I didn't really care when this movie came out. I mean, I wanted to see it, but not that badly, and I waited until it hit HBO Max. And man, I kind of regret doing that because after seeing this movie, it's really a shame that I didn't support it in theaters. I honestly don't know if this movie flopped or not. But I think it did, honestly, which is a shame because I really liked it. And that means it might not be in the new DC universe. Um, but anyway, let's get to the actual review. Blue Beetle doesn't reinvent the wheel. It's very simple, but I think it is the best standard superhero movie you can get. Like, I think this is the best a superhero can be without doing anything particularly different, if that makes sense. It just takes the tropes and it does them the best that it can, and it actually really works. So this is about Robbie Ramirez, who is with his family in a very Hispanic community, and the rich people are bad, and he finds this weird artifact, gives him powers, a little romance in there, a couple jokes, a lot of heart, you know, the standard thing. The difference between this and like a movie that just sort of does all the things but a little uninspired, like I don't know, Thor or something, is that this one has great characters, okay? I was really endeared to the Ramirez. I don't know. I'm not Hispanic, but the Ramirez family. They were a cute family, and I felt for them and their struggle. The dad dies in this movie, and it was actually pretty touching and sad to see when that happened. And the scene where he sees his dad again in like the afterlife or something, or hallucination. It's not clear, but it hit all the right marks. Also, another thing this movie excels at is the comedy. I know some people say that these superhero movies aren't funny, but Blue Beetle has a lot of great jokes. And granted, some of these aren't hilarious. Like there are a fair share of stinkers in here, but when they make a good joke,
it's pretty funny. Again, it's not like anything amazing, but it's pretty good. I'd be more than happy to see more Blue Beetle in the future because this was a really good experience, a great experience about love, family, and forgiveness. So to all the people that are skeptical of Blue Beetle and anything DCEU, I don't blame you. I really don't. But just give it a chance. I think you'll like it, especially if you're a superhero fan. Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but I actually play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a dungeon master, believe it or not. It's a pretty good adaptation. I mean, obviously some things aren't accurate, but who really cares? It's a fun fantasy adventure, and it's hard not to like it, you know? Basically, it's about Chris Pine and his band of kooky characters, and they gotta go around and save the daughter from the bad guy. Yeah, pretty cool movie. This movie was so fun. It's kind of like a fantasy heist, you could say. This was a really fun time that had a lot of cool magical elements, but most of all, this film was just epic, okay? Like, there's a scene with this giant dragon and it's chasing them, and everyone's like, ah! And there's this one chase scene where like the girl has to get at a castle and saw like one continuous shot the entire escape, and there's like this maze and all this cool fantasy stuff, and oh my god, it's so cool. It's so cool. Unbelievably cool. And this movie got me excited, okay? Like, I've seen a lot of people go like, this is the worst age for cinema, which it's really not. But like, I'll always be the guy that shows up to those superhero movies, even if I predict they'll probably be bad. I'll always be that idiot. But if we get more movies like this, then I think I might be okay with superhero movies going out. They had their time to shine. Now it's time for other cool stuff. And this doesn't really apply to D&D exactly, but I think the new thing is going to be video game movies. When I left the theater, there was a kid who said that was the best movie ever. And you know what? Are going to be what the MCU was to me, and what Star Wars was to my dad's generation, and what I don't know what the boomers watch. Sound of Music? I don't know. Then I think I'm okay with superhero movies taking the back seat. Again, I'd say that even though there are two superhero movies that I rated higher than this. So, what you gonna do? A Super Mario Brothers movie. I already made a review of this. In fact, it's one of my most iconic videos on the channel. But even though my thoughts are pretty much the same, I think I can still re-say enough without reusing footage or just skipping this over. Now, as if you know me in real life, I'm sure you are aware that this was easily my most anticipated film of the year. It's not even close. Nothing could even compare to my levels of hype for this movie. And did it deliver? Well, it's my fourth highest rated movie of the year. What do you think? Yeah, it delivered. It delivered buckets full. This movie is so cool. It has everything a Mario fan could ever want. While the original Mario movie, which the less you know about that, the better, felt like a really disingenuous product. The only thing that was the same about that movie was that there were brothers named Mario and Luigi, and they just changed everything else. This one felt like it was for the fans, by the fans. There are Easter eggs and references in every inch of this film. It's incredible. Most noticeable was the music references. I'm not sure who did the score for this film, but he is so. But whoever did was so good at putting the right music from the games into the movies at just the right time. And he remixes it in a way to make the game music feel more cinematic. And also, the movie is just a blast to watch. Like it's so fun. It is short, which I touched on my movie, and I did say that it does go by fast, but like I said in my old review, I think that's a good thing, and looking back at it, that's even better. I would rather watch a 90-minute movie than a 3-hour movie. Like, you want to save some amount of time. This doesn't stay at Smoke'em, it comes in, it gives you Mario, and it leaves. And that's just what I want. Also, of course, Jack Black is awesome. I think Bowser might be the best villain of the year, and Peaches is definitely the best song of the year, without a doubt. If it doesn't win Best Original Song at the Oscars, then me and the Academy are gonna have a little talk because it was just that good and iconic. Like, honestly, how could you say that Peaches isn't the best song of the entire year? Let's be real. And like, Jack Black was so good, so good, and the rest of the cast wasn't that bad either. A lot of people were skeptical of Chris Pratt as Mario, but I think he did a pretty good job. As I said in my review, you can't have the high pitch "It's a me, a Mario" with the but like a pitch so high I can't even do it anymore. You can't have that for a 90-minute movie. It would just get on everyone's nerves and be irritating. So, was this worth the wait and the hype? Yes, absolutely, in every regard. This is the film I've been waiting for. And as the film that I was most excited for, I am so glad that it paid off. I can't say that about my second most anticipated film. Oh my god, I can't believe I was actually excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ugh, I'm a stupid kid. Whatever. I've been forgetting to give these things number scores, but on my original review, I gave it a 9.5. I'm going to change that, not only because I decided to move away from decimals, but also I rated a little overly high, just because I didn't want to get on the wrong side of this culture war for this thing that I really do appreciate. And I didn't want to seem like I was on the other side of this culture war between critics and audiences. But I still really liked it, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. That's my score. Oh, I recorded my segment where I re-reviewed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And then, it got deleted. Yay! Okay, so this was a really good movie. The Rocket's backstory was very emotional. It might be the most emotional I ever got watching an MCU movie, to be honest. Also, the jokes were really, really funny. It really balanced the comedy and the drama very well. High Evolutionary was kind of whatever. I mean, like, I thought the stuff he did was very impactful, but him as a character, whatever. I like Star-Lord's had to accept that the Gamora he knew wasn't the same as the one that he loved, and that's okay. I like Drax's arc of becoming a dad or whatever. Mantis was moving on. Nebula didn't have much to do in this movie, but she was still fun. Of course, Rocket had to make peace with his past and accept who he is and learn to love himself. And this really was Rocket's movie, which is crazy because he's like paralyzed for the majority of the thing. But this really is his film. It really feels like a found family. It's great. The Guardians connections feels genuine. I do think it's a little weird or a little disappointing that Four wasn't in this. Like, Four joined the Guardians and then he just left in Love and Thunder. I don't know. That's more of a Love and Thunder thing. But yeah, really great movie.
Have you ever seen a movie that was so overwhelmingly good that you couldn't make a coherent thought directly after watching it? Well, that's an oddly specific analogy, but that's what happened to me after watching Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. The first movie, Into the Spider Verse, was one of the best. It's like they took every aspect that makes the story good and they amped it up to 11. And with this sequel, they broke the dial. That's how good this is. The plot and characters are so good and emotionally investing. Now, I can't speak too much on Miles that much because his arc isn't finished yet. We have to wait for Beyond the Spider Verse for that. But so far, he's trying to find a sense of belonging in his world, and it seems like no one wants him, not even his spider society, because he's an anomaly, you know? But the person who does have her own complete arc in this movie is Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy is sort of a hated vigilante in her world because she failed to save her world's Peter Parker. She has to learn to open up and trust the people she cares about, like her dad and Miles, and not just listen to the authority of people like Miguel O'Hara. And also, the plot is so cool and the concepts are so interesting. Basically, the Spider Society, every Spider Man has a set events that are bound to happen to them. Like the love interest dies, the father figure dies, and a police captain dies. And for Miles, that's who it is. The police captain is gonna die, and that's his dad. So he wants to prevent that from happening, but Miguel thinks, Spider-Man 2099, who leads the society, thinks that if he doesn't die, then the universe will collapse or something, because every Spider-Man needs to have these events happen to him. It's about adaptation. It's talking about how some people expect certain things to be covered in every adaptation of a story. And if those things aren't included, they abandon it. But we need to accept that interpretations of stories and characters are going to be different because that's how we get new interesting stories and characters. It's a good commentary on adaptation because whenever you get an adaptation of a work people are passionate about, inevitably gatekeepers are going to be upset when the thing isn't one for one. And it goes double for Spider-Verse, because, in case you didn't know, Miles is not Peter, and he's black, and he's Spider-Man, and that's okay. But that's just what I got out of it. I found it interesting that all the Spider-Men were willing to listen to Miguel, but I think it's like a guilt complex thing. I mean, sometimes it's easier to chalk things up to fate than accept that you have a role in your own life, you know? Especially if you've had a hard life. It's easier that way. And not just like the main Spider-Man stuff. There are also smaller characters that I really enjoyed. For instance, Miles' mom. In the first movie, Miles' mom was basically a background character, but that can't be said for this movie. In fact, this time, I actually remember her name. It's Rio. Hi, Rio. The bond between Miles and his parents feels very real and genuine, you know? I mean, the parents know something's off because he keeps having to run off to save the day, but they don't know what his problem is, so they're worried and concerned. It adds a nice emotional heart to the movie, and it gives us some slower scenes to stop the breakneck pace the rest of the movie goes through. Another fun, smaller character would be the Spot. I sort of went into this film expecting him to be the central villain, but in the second half he kind of gets sidelined by Miguel, although I think he'll play a bigger role in Beyond the Spider-Verse. The Spot starts out as this really goofy, incompetent villain. Basically, he can make portals, and He starts off as like this joke character. He's incompetent, he's weirdly polite, but he has low self-esteem. He doesn't like being a quote-unquote villain of the week. So he makes himself stronger and stronger, and by the end of the movie, he's like a multiverse level threat. It's pretty epic. There was also Hobie Brown, or Spider-Punk as they call him, which was certainly in the movie. Not sure why he was the one the internet decided to idolize all of a sudden, but yeah, Spider-Punk, there he is. Another thing that was great about this movie that I feel like should be obvious, but the animation is stunning. The first Spider-Verse really changed the game in putting style over realism. You know, most 3D animation was either just going for the most realistic it possibly could, or the generic Pixar style, which, I mean, if you've ever seen any Pixar movie, you know what that is. Spider-Verse really changed that by going for its own unique, very stylized thing. And now other movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Puss in Boots 2 and things like that have also been going for a more stylized animation. I feel like I could watch this movie again and again and not get tired of it. It's so good. Easily one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. And there's nothing this year that could top it. Or at least, that's what I thought. Godzilla -1 is... But it's so phenomenal. Oh my god. So basically, it's about this pilot. He's a kamikaze pilot, which is basically suicide bombers in Japan. And he bails out, you know, he flaked. No, he doesn't want to die, he wants to live. And during his time in the war, or like right after the war, he comes across Godzilla. And Godzilla's killing all its team members, and he's too scared to do anything. He can't do anything. He just like freezes. And the whole film is basically about survivor's guilt and like he's struggling with the fact that he's still alive. He feels like he doesn't deserve to live. After the war, he forms like this sort of surrogate family with other people that have lost their families during the war. And then Godzilla returned. Oh my god. Because what this movie does is it spends so much time building and developing the characters that you're actually emotionally invested when Godzilla shows up. I mean, I think Godzilla is only in like 5 sequences in this whole movie, and it doesn't even matter, because you hardly even care, because the humans are the ones that carry the story. I really can't stress that enough. I know that's strange, especially for Godzilla, but the thing that makes this movie great is not Godzilla. And of course, when Godzilla does show up, it's amazing. Because this film has worked up all the characters and connections and their joys and tragedies that by the time Godzilla does show up and obliterates everything, it's genuinely really sad and emotional. And I was tearing up in the theater, honestly, when Godzilla was just destroying everything, rampaging. Like, just such a great movie about human perseverance. It's all about how we need to live. We can't treat people like they're disposable. Because the pilot, I forget his name, honestly, sorry, but he constantly deals with this survivor's guilt. Feels like he shouldn't be alive, and sometimes he feels like he isn't alive. He wonders if his life with his new family is perhaps all a dream, but then you see the connections he makes with his family and with his friends. It's so emotionally investing. I really can't stress enough how phenomenal this movie is. It's fantastic in every single aspect I could think of. And the CGI is amazing. I mean, look at this. This is a $15 million budget, which I know that's a lot for normal people, but in Hollywood terms, that's pretty cheap. Most Marvel movies are like $100
million, and most of those look way worse than that. It really shows that the real thing that's needed to make these movies look great is time, since I believe they were doing CGI for like 4 years, because I think this was supposed to be a pandemic movie. Oh my god, it's so good. It's incredible. Like, I would not be surprised at all if this is nominated for Best Picture of the Year. It is just that amazing in every sense of the word. Even if you're not a fan of Godzilla, I suggest you watch this movie because it's not that much about Godzilla. It's just a spectacular movie. It's cinema, you might say. Such a beautiful artistic piece. We must survive. That's the goal. That's the moral here, the theme. We must survive. No life is disposable. Not winning, living. Honestly, this might be one of the best eras for Godzilla fans. I mean, we have Japan making deep, emotional movies like this, and we have America making the fun, dumb, fun, campy films like that Godzilla King Kong movie they're making next year. So really, it's the best of both worlds. Just see this movie. I feel like I'm not describing why this movie is amazing enough. Godzilla Minus One is overwhelmingly fantastic. I give Godzilla Minus One a 10 out of 10. Absolutely perfect.